Hey everybody, we're starting Unit 3, Propositional Logic. We've been dealing with categorical logic the first two units of the semester, and Rod is posting a lesson plan that'll go over the same thing Wednesday, I believe, this week, and then this is just kind of an additional for those of you that aren't able to make it to the first couple in-class lesson plans. So we're moving on from categorical logic into propositional logic. It'll largely look completely different. Some of the concepts you'll see are building on what we've learned, but generally it's going to look completely different. So the first thing we have to learn in propositional logic is simple propositions. So this would include the categorical propositions that we've had up to now. Like you'll see here, all dogs are mammals, some dogs are pets. You've seen those before. Those are categorical propositions. Propositional logic, we're going to look at those as simple propositions, and our goal is to build it up into arguments using compound propositions. So in categorical logic, we've represented each of the categories within a statement with a single capital letter. We're going to now represent the entire simple proposition with a single capital letter, and you'll see why we're doing that later. So just to start now, all dogs are mammals. We can refer to that just as capital letter D. Some dogs are pets. To avoid confusion, let's just refer to that as capital letter P. We are late now. We can represent that with an L. And I am in Longmont now. We have two L's there, so I'll use an N. So that's just to say that when I use the capital letter D, it's in place of this entire statement, all dogs are mammals. Whenever I use the capital letter P, instead of just the category, it's the entire statement, some dogs are pets. So next thing you need to know, we'll be using 5 logical operators. So these are ways to combine these different statements. So the first one is negation, which we'll be using a tilde, which you can write on paper, and there's a keyboard input for it. So this basically means it is not the case that ... So it is not the case that all dogs are mammals. Our second logical operator is disjunction. We're going to use the wedge, which on the keyboard, I think you could just use a V. So the wedge symbol, what this means is, the way we're going to look at it is and or. So basically it means or, but for the purpose of this class and the bulk of logic going forward, it actually, we use both inclusive. We're going to refer to the wedge symbol, disjunction, as inclusive, which means and or. So one of them can be true, the other one can be true, or they can both be true. There is an exclusive disjunction, which is to say only one of them can be true. But for the sake of this class, and again, most of the logic going forward, use that to represent and or. And conjunction, we're going to use, to type it out on the keyboard, an ampersand. So this just means literally what it means, and. So you have two things in conjunction, they both have to be true for the statement to be true. We'll start dealing with truth values in the next lesson coming up. Right now we just want to get the terminology and the symbolism down. So the conditional, or sometimes we'll refer to it as the hypothetical statement, It's just an arrow, always facing towards the right. This just represents if then. So you've heard, we all know if then statements. If this occurs, then this occurs. If this has happened, then this has happened. So it's conditional, and the reason we call it conditional is the second part is conditional, and the first part we'll get into antecedent, consequent later on. But just know that the conditional, we're going to use the arrow, means essentially if then. So biconditional, actually, are we using, sorry, one sec. Biconditional, let's see, I think we're using the triple bar. At least that's what I have right here. I don't know how we're going to do that on the keyboard. But there's a couple different symbols that we can use. But for now, I'm just going to use the triple bar. And that is if and only if. So whenever you use this term in general language, if and only if, this happens if and only if this is the case. So basically it's saying that if the first thing is true, the second thing must be true. If the first thing is false, the second thing must be false. They both have to be equivalent on both sides of it. So let's look at some examples. So we've got negation. I'll go right over here. Let's say we say D, not D. So it is not the case that D, this would be saying it is not the case that all dogs are mammals. Let's say tilde N, it is not the case that I am in Longmont now, which is false because I am in Longmont right now. Disjunction, we could say D wedge P, and that's saying that all dogs are mammals and or some dogs are pets. Again, we'll get into truth values later, and that would be either D could be true, either P or P could be true, or they could both be true. We could also say L wedge N, which would be we are late now, or I am in Longmont now. Conjunction, oops. Let's say D ampersand P, that would be all dogs are mammals and some dogs are pets. Or we could say, same thing here, L ampersand N. We are late now and I am in Longmont now. And then the conditional, let's say D arrow N, L arrow P. First one, so it's an if then. So it's going to be if D, then N. So if all dogs are mammals, then I am in Longmont now. It's a weird statement to say, but that's what the operators are telling us. If L, then P. If we are late now, then some dogs are pets. Also sort of nonsensical, but you'll see as we go through the semester that makes more sense. And then finally the biconditional. So D triple bar P, we could say L triple And this would be saying D is the case if and only if P is the case. So all dogs are mammals if and only if some dogs are pets. Makes a little more sense. We don't know. Actually, both of those are true, so this would be a true statement. But again, we'll get into truth values later on. L is the case. We are late now if and only if I am in Longmont now. Could see a scenario where that makes sense. So I will go through, I think in the upcoming video, I'll go through some more examples. I'll have some more videos throughout this unit with examples. But this lecture should be up on Wednesday with Rod's lecture, and he'll be going over it in class, and then Friday we'll be building upon that.